In a year where Linkin Park finally made their comeback, something nobody had on their 2024 bingo card, there's no Linkin Park song in this, so this movie gets a 0 out of 10, a 0 out of 5, an F minus. This movie sucks. Transformers 1 is the prequel to prequels to Michael Bay's Transformers movies, except this one's not live action. This is an animated film that tells the story of how Orion Pax became Optimus Prime and how D16 became Megatron, but there's more to it than that. These two were better known as sworn enemies, but once were friends who bonded like brothers who changed the fate of Cybertron forever. Now, if you're like me, you probably saw the trailer and was like, that doesn't look like it's going to be a very good Transformers movie. And quite frankly, none of the Transformers movies are really all that great, except for Bumblebee and the 2007 one. We live in an age where nostalgia is playing a massive, massive part in movies and how we just view things of the past. But I never really held that movie in such high regard. It's a fine movie. I hate all the military stuff in it. The Transformer stuff kicks ass. The military stuff just bogs that movie down. I thought that those movies got progressively worse and worse and worse as they went on, but I had some fun with last year's Rise of the Beast, and I really like Bumblebee. So I wasn't sure what to expect after the trailers really underwhelmed me with Transformers 1, but this was a total blast from start to finish. This might be the most fun I have had watching a Transformers movie in this entire series, since I believe that this one is connecting back to the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I could be completely wrong on that. I don't think this is the best Transformers movie. I still think that belongs to Bumblebee. Bumblebee, you are the king, man. You are awesome. This undoubtedly has some flaws, but considering how much action is in this movie, it's definitely the most fun I've had watching a Transformers movie. I just think Transformers works better in an animated medium. I think there's so much more you can do with animation with Transformers than you can with live action. Not to take away from the special effects of those Transformers movies, because if anything, Michael Bay knew how to assemble visual effects. Those visual effects for the Transformers in those live action movies are incredible. They still stand the test of time. They are great. That's like the one thing he did right in those movies. Everything else just kind of sucked. There's a lot you have to do with the animation. This is directed by Josh Cooley, who directed Toy Story 4. And Toy Story 4 was such a great debut. And now he follows it up with Transformers 1, where he's kind of seasoned. He knows how to move that camera in and out. He knows what colors can go where, how to animate these scenes. There's a lot of animations going on in here, especially since these are Transformers. They transform a lot. So there is a lot to do with the animation in here, lots of moving parts with the animation. And he does a really, really good job. And I really liked Chris Hemsworth as Orion Pax. Wasn't really sure how I would feel hearing somebody else other than Peter Cullen voice Orion Pax, or as we know him as Optimus Prime. But Chris Hemsworth does really good. He never does an imitation of Peter Cullen. He makes Orion Pax his own thing, which is what I think you have to do. You can't imitate somebody that is such an iconic voice actor for a character that has put their stamp on that character. You can't imitate that. And Brian Tyree Henry as D16, or as we know him, Megatron, fits perfectly. Fits with what the story's going for. Fits the character arc. Brian Tyree Henry as really brings it as D16, and I really, really dug some of his moments where he just had to go for it. He was really good in those moments. Where the animation really shines for me is the action set pieces. There's a lot of action in this movie. It's the first Transformers movie in this series to be rated PG, and I mean, sitting there, I was like, this could easily have been a PG-13 animated Transformers movie, and it probably should have been. There was a lot of action. There's a lot happening in this movie, sometimes to its detriment. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the set pieces, the set pieces felt so unique. The set pieces to me never felt like they were trying to be the same. Like, they all felt like that they were trying to outdo each other, and that is very hard to do, especially when you have a set piece, in my opinion, that peaks about 20 minutes into the movie with the Iacon 5000 race. This was actually footage that I saw at San Diego Comic-Con that I was really looking forward to seeing in the theater, and it was footage that actually got me on the side where it's like, oh, maybe this could be a good Transformers movie, and that was easily my favorite part of the movie. But That's different from an action scene that happens later in the movie, which is different from an action scene that happens earlier in the movie. There's just a unique blend, a unique style to the action scenes. They never feel like they're the same. Of course, it's robots fighting robots, but despite robots fighting robots for most of the action scenes don't feel repetitive in any other aspect. And this movie really shines with the camaraderie between Orion Pax, D16, B, Alita 1, voiced by Scarlett Johansson, and B is voiced by Keegan Michael Key. I think that when they're on their adventure, their camaraderie really shines. Their camaraderie really makes you care about these characters if you already didn't. And it's a really interesting take on the Transformers. I'm not well versed in Transformers lore, but I do like that Orion Pax and D16 start off as like junk bots. They're miners on Cybertron, and they have to get to the surface to find something. And that's really their character arc, the hero's journey. I think that all four of these characters have a really, really solid arc, and I was really rooting for all four of them throughout this entire movie. I really liked Keegan Michael Key as B because we haven't really seen Bumblebee talk all that much in the live action movies. And here, it feels like at first it's going to be a nuisance because it's Keegan Michael Key. We know he's a comedian. There are a couple of running jokes with Bumblebee where it feels like it starts to grate on your nerves, and that's the where he's like, you can call me Badassatron. That was a running joke that was funny at first, and then it just didn't get funny as it went on. I really did like all four of these characters together, and I like the themes of this movie. Animation really brings the ante when it comes to themes, and I kind of like that about animation. It's not like you don't have to go into every movie learning anything. I'm not going to walk out of John Wick being like, yeah, I learned some really valuable life lessons watching John Wick. No, you're just there to watch Keanu shoot people in the face for 2 hours. That's what you're getting with a John Wick movie.
But John Wick's not a family movie. But that was not the original intent.
But you get something like this, the origin story of the Transformers, where you have themes like rising above oppression, being the one who is oppressed, realizing the true person within yourself. I really like those themes, and this movie really handles those themes really well. Where I think the movie falters, though, is its pacing. This pacing is on crack. This is like Rise of Skywalker pacing. Rise of Skywalker, it felt like the movie didn't have room to breathe. It just kept going from place to place to place to place, plot point to plot point to plot point to plot. That's what I felt like with this movie. I was just like, movie, okay, Transformers. You need to slow it down a little bit. You don't have any room to breathe, and I am trying to play catch up with what you are trying to explain to me on screen. And the story itself starts off as this really flimsy fetch quest. I mean, and it's because that pacing really hinders some story beats. And this flimsy fetch quest just wasn't interesting to me at first, but once you get further into the movie and you see where this flimsy fetch quest is going, then it actually focuses up and it feels like, okay, now I know, now we're opening it up to breathe a little bit. But still, I mean, this movie moves from plot point to plot point to plot point to plot point like it's going out of style, like there's no tomorrow. And I just needed it to slow down for a little bit. There's also a little bit too much exposition. Of course, it's a Transformers movie. There's going to be a shit ton of exposition, as there always is in a Transformers movie, because there's a lot of lore with the Transformers, I'm assuming. Like I said, I've never seen the original cartoon for Transformers, but I'm assuming that there's a lot of lore, so they have to explain everything to you. And even then, as you're playing catch up with so many different plot points, and they have an exposition dump in a scene, it's like, all right, like, I gotta catch up with these plot points. Now I gotta figure out like what's going on in this scene because they're explaining everything, and I'm trying to put it all in my head, but it quickly evaporates from your head because you feel like you're getting so much information thrown at you all at once. And I think that that's a very big hindrance on this movie. I just couldn't keep up after a while. It was action scenes galore, and while they were fun, I needed the movie to take it back a little bit. Just calm it down for like maybe 10 minutes. Towards the second half of the movie, it did that, but even then, there's more characters that are introduced. There's more villains that are introduced. The movie feels like it's on crack. I'll say this. It wasn't 2.5 hours like most Transformers movies are. Thank you. Yeah, it just needed to tone it back a little bit and let it settle with the audience. Let the audience take in what they were watching. I just felt like it went way too fast. It didn't feel like it was too short. Like it felt like it was its actual length, which is an hour and 45 minutes. But moving from set piece to plot point to plot point was really messy, and it made for a flimsy fetch quest that Orion Pax and his three buddies go on. But like I said in the open, it's probably the most enjoyable Transformers movie. This is probably going to be the most rewatchable Transformers movie because here's my thing. I don't necessarily look at the best movie in a franchise as the one that's the most rewatchable. I look at it as the most fun. Iron Man, best movie of the Iron Man franchise. Iron Man 3, that's the one I have the most fun with. That's the one I'm going to watch the most. And that's really how I feel with Transformers 1. Bumblebee is the best Transformers movie. Transformers 1 is the most fun and most entertaining. So therefore, it's probably the one I'm going to watch the most. I really enjoyed Transformers 1 with 3/4 of a bucket of popcorn. I don't think this is like high art or anything. I mean, the animation is great. The voice acting's great. The themes are great. It just needed to clean itself up a little bit with the pacing and some story elements that I think need to be addressed if they continue this. And it just, you know what? And the best part is that it feels like a complete movie. There's wiggle room to make more. And if it does make money, they will make more. I think if you were turned off by the trailer, you will be surprised with how much you enjoy it. So if you have seen Transformers 1, let me know what you think of it in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.